For me, the America's deepest divide was inside of me. That I grew up with this part of me that was gay and a part of me that was Mormon. And
I run and operate a private practice called Private Counseling, and I set that up intentionally to be kind of a gay-affirming, culturally competent practice. And I should also say, I'm also ex-Mormon, and part of my coming out process when I was going to BYU is I was very involved in the BYU Counseling Center, doing my own reparative therapy. It didn't work.
No, because doggone it, you people aren't even supposed to feel this way. So, you know, so that you know, and honestly, I say that because that's almost the approach when you go back 20 years to where it was.
I do remember Jim Struve calling me and saying, I would really like to come to Provo. And I thought, why in hell would you want to come to Provo, Utah? And he said, well, I just want to kind of get to know. I'm fairly new to the state, and I would just like to know a little bit more about you folks.
We're going to be in some pretty big hurt in this country. We see it every day, and it's getting worse. And I think we've got to change the direction of how that starts to look.
How we're going to make a difference is we decided we were going to sue reparative therapists, and we were going to take litigation. And we had contracted with a lawyer to take on a case pro bono, find somebody in Utah was going to get national acclaim for us doing that. And then Lee and I were talking at this point, and Jerry and Sylvester and Gil, and we said, this is crazy. All we're going to do is polarize things more. So we said, let's get all the parts in a room together.
instead of trying to destroy you guys, I realized that we need you as much as you probably need us. So it is this collaboration that was so necessary. That we got to work together and figure this out because we need you.
If I'm looking at my ethics and if I'm having that conversation with a client and helping them sort that out, that's very different than some of the stuff that we're hearing about reparative therapy that seems to be very dogmatic about changing sexual orientation.
I think we're kind of on opposite sides of the fence, aren't we? It was extremely nerve-wracking. I think it began with the question, how can you do what you do and feel ethical? That was the first question. That was his question.
How are you able to maintain a friendship with others that you believe are engaging in unethical practices?
I don't know that he does something unethical at the moment.
I'm just sitting on a couch right now. How unethical can that get? People who are distressed over their same-sex attraction or homosexuality, they're always going to look for someone to help them. So I'm talking about the people that self-select into conversations with me, that come up to me and say, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes?
We see people in as much pain as you see people in on the other side.
Well, I'm curious. I'd like to ask my colleagues a question.
I think we've come to a point, we got through the beginnings where we kind of tolerated what our suspicions were of each other, and I think we've come to a point now that we all pretty much trust that all of us are doing ethical things here and now.
And so we've asked the panel, and I want to press you even in this next segment, to get into the messy stuff, the hardest things on two levels, both reflecting on what's been hard and what's still hard.
Therapists should not promise or promote to change sexual orientation.
There's a lot that does change in an individual, a lot changed in myself, but there are some things that endured.
I think we're less about can you change orientation to what does change mean? When we say change,
Right.
What does change mean?
What I've had people come to me and say is, I worked with a gay affirming therapist and he or she told me that I had to just accept that I was gay, that there wasn't anything that I could do about it, and that's when I became suicidal. I've heard that multiple times.
I've also heard stories of people saying that they've heard not only are you gay, but that you have to leave the church and therefore create this split between sexuality and spirituality.
You said, and I don't know what your words are, so I'm just summarizing, but something like, but my God or my religion still, you know, it's not okay because of religious belief, because I'm not going to go to celestial heaven or on the other side. So there was this kind of thing that was there. So there still is that implied assumption underneath that change has to happen.
For me personally, it comes from a place of believing that our earth existence is a fragment of our eternal existence, and what happens here has has long-term repercussions, and that I don't know what God is going to do about homosexuality. I can't claim to understand why it's here. And I believe that to try to say that I understand why we experience it would be arrogant. And I used to just dive into that arrogance, you know, and now I'm a little more humbled by knowing you guys.
I'm saying it because if we don't start saying that out loud in this community, we'll never get to the bottom of the problem of some of the perceptions and the problems that we have. Disagreements don't go away. They don't just magically disappear. We don't all just come to some kind of a kumbaya acceptance of things. The question you start to move toward is trying to understand, how do we as a community hold sacred things that are in tension with one another and value each other in that process while we work out the messiness of living in a world that's never going to reconcile all the differences and tensions that exist.
I don't know if we're trying to be friends. I think that's a misunderstanding, because I like you all.
I think we are.
I do love you, but I'm not trying to be your friend.
Our community is so under attack. I mean, if you talk to people, I'm here as the voice, but if you talk to people out there in the community, they're scared, they're lost, they feel persecuted and attacked. They are not the people with the privilege that you tend to think that they are, because they're Mormons and they're whites and they're male. They do not have a voice, they're not recognized, they're not seen.
And that really was like, whoa, because I had been judging everybody and judging these people that they're all homophobic, and if I could just get the homophobia out of them, then they would go my way.
You seem to get it. And in terms of what our concerns would be. In fact, at some point you changed your website in some conversations.
Changed
right?
quite a bit on the website.
Right. And I don't understand why you would still want to align yourself with that camp.
So do you remember when we had the conversation about the gay lifestyle? And what you taught me was, there's not a gay lifestyle. There are many gay lifestyles, right? But they're all part of some umbrella of a gay something, right? And so that's the way I see my community.
Even though there is love each other, we love to a certain extent and then tolerate because we're supposed to. It seems to me like I agree with the words you're saying, but in terms of how it actually shows up is so much against each other, black and white.
Words are such a barrier for all of us. They're so difficult. So we spend a lot of time on, well, what do you mean when you say, because we're trying to understand each other. And so as a community, these conversations are hard because we talk past each other so much of the time. So many times, you know, if we could just listen and be calm enough, long enough, we'd start to figure out that we're often saying similar things. We've spent more than 250 hours. I did a little mental calculation the other day just to figure it out. This has been like a very long spousal conversation, partner conversation. In other words, just to have a communication between people who are trying to build a relationship takes a huge amount of investment of time and effort and concern and affection and love for people, for their hearts, for their goodness.
I guess I want to go to my grave doing this instead of golfing. So.
We have like 2 minutes left for questions, so I'm going to drop a big old bomb. Do you ever feel that other members of the group are undoing your work? And I'm going to relate that to a question. I think Vaughn had a question about self-determination and how you can really exercise self-determination across these divides. Yeah?
Self-determination, which is the ethical standard that you quote in your paper, says, I'm really interested in being straight. Great. Somebody comes in and says, I really need affirmation about my particular LGBT orientation, and that's what I want to be. Great. I thought we were facilitating individual self-determination, and don't we need both sides doing what you do?
I keep your cards, and I give them out to people who say that's what they want. I don't have a problem referring them.
What I would say is I agree that options are important, so this idea of what's out there for a person. So somebody said this idea about roadmaps. This idea if you only have 2 roads and this one leads to hell, then you only have this one. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily self-determination.
But we have to talk about them and deal with them and help the client to be able to do it. Or we're unethically leading them down a path, our side won. And that's the unethical part. Got them in our camp, now we won.
Another thing that has helped me though is this idea of, I think our problem has been hierarchies. So I have to go to the celestial kingdom, or I can't go down here, or I have to protect this person from going there, or I have to stop this person from doing a mixed orientation marriage, because that definitely is inferior to a gay relationship. So it's those hierarchies that have kept me and I think our community stuck. And I like to think about if we could just go like this. So to think that, okay, where do you want to go? Is this idea of self-determination is, am I going to be happiest in this mixed orientation marriage? Am I going to be happiest in this gay relationship or being celibate? There's an idea that I could be satisfied here, you could be satisfied going there, but I think that has helped me to back off of this idea of, no, I got to protect this person from going into a mixed orientation marriage or a life of celibacy, how horrible that would be, without really stepping back and going, what would this person want to do? What's best for this person?
What I would add is that I think that. Oh. All the things I've said, that you beat me on?